Now, as we go to our next guest, Professor here at Lincoln University, who walks past Blink as we're sitting in the sun eating our lunch and always likes to put a wee dig or a comment or two, one of my favourites here on campus. Mr. Jon Hickford joins us now, not from Lincoln, from his home. How's lockdown been, John?
Oh, look, I'm loving it because I look down over Littleton Harbour. I'm about 100 metres up here, so it's a fantastic view. And watch the fertiliser boats coming and going. And I know that pastoral agriculture is in a pretty fine state when you see those boats come and go every day. So it's a great place to be.
What would you do with Mochikurara Racecourse or some of these others, with your thinking caps on?
Perfectly good grazing country. Some of it's a bit heavy, but, we could get quite a few sheep and cattle on there and make up for some of the land that we've lost to other industries. So, good grazing country.
Oh, fantastic. Now, of course, Greg said, yeah, but only 2 million total unless I've missed something. Okay. Yep, Greg, we'll clarify that, but thank you very much for getting involved. Successive governments have, of course, abandoned our world-class government-funded science-based agencies that supported and led the development of our industry to what it is now as a world leader today. Is throwing more money at the agriculture and horticultural science sector the only answer ahead of tomorrow's budget? Or, as I've heard in science circles, that would a restructure be more productive use of allocated funds? To join me to discuss this, and of course, as we go into it, the agricultural education part to it, Lincoln University, as I see, Professor, and his title, President of the New Zealand Institute of Agriculture and Horticultural Science, Jon Hickford. John, your thoughts on the reallocation versus more?
Yeah, look, I think where I'd start was that, we could talk till we're blue in the faces about the economic cost of COVID-19 or the social cost, but it's been fantastic how effectively the medical science has worked to give us the outcome we've got. We've had the expertise there to deliver that. If we had the equivalent in farming, which might be foot and mouth disease, I don't feel anywhere near as comfortable. And, I base that on looking at a number of things that have happened in the last few years. I mean, M. bovis is a great starting point, but you could look at varroa mite with the bees. You could look at the PSAV with the kiwi fruit. These are the pandemics, or not necessarily pandemics, but things that have come along to challenge farming, and we haven't really been that well prepared. We haven't had good strategic plans, and so I worry. If we got foot and mouth tomorrow, which is unlikely given there's very few planes in the sky, I do sort of worry that we wouldn't have a resilient enough industry. And I think that's what we've got to think about a little bit more in terms of allocation of science funding, is to make sure that we're not just investing in innovation, because we're doing that quite well at the moment. That's where a lot of the money going to the CRIs goes, is into innovation, and it's a buzzword. But we maybe need to be a little bit more cautious and put a little bit more into ensuring that we have the systems in place to make the system even more durable, enduring. The sorts of things such that if something did go wrong, we could respond quickly and not take a big economic hit out of it. Because if we lost farming now, we can only speculate on what the cost would be. So it's to get a little bit more durability or resilience in farming. Now, on farm, our resilience is great. Our farmers are fantastically resilient people, but it's when you step back from that, two big challenges like PSAV, that the problem comes along. And if you take PSAV specifically, what saved us there in many ways was there was almost a little bit of redundancy. We had new cultivars or untested cultivars of kiwi fruit sitting there that were ready to go, and it only took us 4 or 5 years to work them up to the stage now where those export returns last month for kiwi fruit was outstanding. But would we have that same ability to respond with foot and mouth? That's what concerns me. So I think, what I'd like to see is a little bit more focus on things like biosecurity and biosecurity responses, more of a, I won't use the word public good because that's sort of a little bit, but more of a spend on ensuring that we have the systems we need in place such that we can respond in the long term. That's what I'd like to see.
So ahead of the budget, I mean, going into the 2017 election, there was a real buzz for Minister O'Connor campaigning on more funds going into CRIs. Did we see any of that?
Yeah, we have. I think one of the real concerns with funds going into CRIs is it's not actually ending up with the people who do the work. It doesn't end up at the bench or in the paddock. And so, one of the joys, again, going back to COVID-19, has been seeing scientists fronting up, epidemiologists fronting up on the radio, on TV, talking New Zealand through what we're seeing. And you gain confidence from seeing those people because they seem to be in control. That money going into the CRIs, I wish I could think it was going to the agricultural and horticultural science equivalents of those people, but I don't think it is. I think a lot of it's being consumed in bureaucracy, and that worries me.
John, you've actually had a real sweet spot for me, which is communicating science. And in the agricultural science world, as I'm led to believe in the 80s, there was a particular mishap where all of a sudden agricultural scientists became very gun shy to be very public about science. And you said, like you said, these epidemiologists and scientists coming forward and communicating in mainstream media to give confidence around science. Yet in agriculture and horticultural science, we're afraid to be misunderstood, which has led to a lot of misunderstanding.
Yeah, it's not even just that too. I mean, the nature of the act that controls our CRIs, which is where our public good scientists sit, those acts, their primary purpose is to ensure that those CRIs are responsible financially and deliver profit back to the shareholding minister. They're not designed to ensure that the New Zealand public, which is the farmer in the case of the agricultural CRIs, they're not designed to ensure that those people are getting what they need. So the scientists we've seen with COVID-19 fronting up, the Michael Bakers, they're either university-based or the people are working in public health, and they're free within some constraints to talk publicly. But a lot of our CRI scientists now, they'd say straight out, feel quite gagged by the fact that the corporate direction is not consistent with them having a public voice anymore. So that's the problem as I see it.
Okay, so as your role as president, what are you looking to do to change that?
We try and get them to communicate more, but they're really quite loath to do that. That worries me. We do have some good spokespeople for agricultural science. So, we've mentioned the names like Jacqueline Rowith and Jim Gibbs and Derek Moot. Those sorts of people are out there. Doug Edmeets. There's people there that communicate.
It's quite nice to have a variety of voices, though, John.
It would indeed, and to get more out there would be good. It also reflects that a lot of our agricultural, horticultural scientists are immensely busy people. I don't want to detract from that. They'd love to be able to get out there and talk more, but they just don't have the time. And I mean, I suppose money would facilitate that if we went down that path of saying, hey, we need to actually have some agency that's pushing a better communication of agricultural and horticultural science, getting it out there through people like yourself.
Can I help? Can I put my hand up? Can I please be involved with that? I'd absolutely love it.
John, I would love to.
John, and the reason why we're segueing into our next guest is because the flow on of this leads to the interest of our young ones wanting to have a career in this.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And we have real struggle trying to recruit young people into agricultural and horticultural science. It's just not seen to be sexy or something like that. The numbers that we have coming into Lincoln and equivalently, into Massey as well, are far too low. We've heard figures before we could increase that tenfold. It worries me we haven't even got enough young people coming in to maintain business as usual, let alone grow the industry into something that we'd want. And it does start further down the system. So, I think it starts in the schools. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but with Kerry next. But, we really need to create a much better mechanism to take capable young people through from school into university and out there and becoming the next generation that create even more wealth for New Zealand. So, yeah, that would be my dream.
Oh, I love ending on someone's dream. Thank you so much, Jon Hickford. You're an absolute dream to your students, which I'm sure you'll look forward to seeing in person shortly after all this online teaching. That is Professor Jon Hickford here at Lincoln University, and of course the the president of the Institute of Agriculture and Horticultural Science.
This is Sarah's Country.